It's Dr. C, and welcome to another broadcast of Let's Talk Impact. I must apologize for the technical situations that were going on backstage, and so without any further ado, let's just kind of jump in. And again, I apologize for the delays that have happened. Technology is technologying for us today, and so listen in this discussion uh, about communication. I think it's true that everybody needs a bond, right? And for most guys, however, in the time of struggle, and some things are not just at the top of our list, connecting and intimacy and affection. When we're in our own trenches, sometimes that connection piece is not a priority, and establishing and sustaining bonds it's an ongoing struggle. And this idea that everyone is a lone wolf, that some could possibly do things on their own, uh, we understand that the reality is that everybody needs someone. And on other occasions, we as men, we restrained by fear and vulnerability, and they may be scared to look weak or even to lose control if it appears that we have become vulnerable. And this can prevent men from building genuine intimate relationships. And I must tell you that trust is key. Trust is key. And for the women in our lives, hear me well, there are some things that the women we love and trust that are said that cannot be unsaid. I hope you caught that. There are some things that the women in our lives that they say they can't be unsaid. And so healthy relationships are built on honesty and openness. And I'm sure that you would agree with me that a good relationship is built on honesty and openness, whether it's a mother and a son, a husband and a wife, it doesn't matter. And in prayers for clarity and comprehension, the women in our lives, they can help assist us by establishing those strong bonds based on openness and trust. And this series that we've been talking about for some time, about women praying for the men that they love, we pray that it's their prayer, rather, that we find an inner strength to navigate the challenges of our lives. And so today, we're going to talk about fostering open and honest communication. And I'm joined by one of my dearest mother friends, ally, companion. If you, those of you that grew up in church, you knew that was the church mother. And in my first pastorate, I came to know this young lady, and she accepted me as one of her sons. So I'm full disclosure, if you hear me say moms, it's because that relationship is there. And she oftentimes refers to me as Dr. Son. And so I'm joined today by a dear one, Mrs. Deborah Jefferson. And so she's a former first lady. She's a boy mom, and she includes me in that boy mom piece. And so I want you to welcome her to the stage. And she's going to be audio today, but I wanted her to join me in this conversation. Moms, are you there?
Yes, Dr. Sun, I'm here.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing. And I've already apologized for the technical issues, but I just believe that this conversation is so urgent that we've got to press in it anyway. All right. And so if you don't mind, let's talk about this whole idea of open and honest communication. And it applies to mothers and sons and wives and husbands and the like. And so just got a couple questions, and they're going to guide our conversation today. And I believe that someone is going to benefit from our time together. And so again, thank you so much for joining us. Here's the first question that I have for us, moms. you would agree that true communication, it requires openness. And
Yes.
so with that, what are some common barriers that you face when you're trying to communicate deeply and honestly? What are some common barriers that you face when you're trying to openly and honestly communicate?
Well, one of the fears or barriers initially would be uh, fear of being misunderstood.
Mm,
Um, Sometimes that can hold things up. Sometimes trying to assess a person's state of mind and your own, trying to
mhm,
figure out the best way to communicate without hurting a person's feelings,
mhm, mhm.
um, and utilizing, deciding which way you're going to go at a disagreement or something that a communication style, especially if it's something negative.
Mhm.
Um, you want to be gentle, yet you want to be able to get to the point or let them know that I'm here for you, but there's so those are some of the barriers. Now, unless somebody brings something to me. Now, I'm not a saint. Now, sometimes if somebody pushes my button, I have to fight hard not to push back.
Right,
And
right.
I'm not going to say I always have not pushed back, but those are
Mhm.
some of the barriers. Yeah.
Right, right. Well, so here's the funny thing. If we as guys would be honest with ourselves, we have this fear of being misunderstood, and likewise, it depends on how someone approaches. It sort of guides how we respond, and if we're not careful, we might not be productive with our response. And so, it is important, I think, for those that are listening to know that there are some barriers out there that will sort of hinder how we communicate. So with this, men sometimes we struggle to articulate our needs, our feelings clearly. And then you, as being a wife and boy mom, you understand that sometimes we don't get it out right. We don't. It doesn't come out right. How have you helped? And I'll make this specific. How have you helped your son or sons navigate the challenge of truly expressing what's on his heart?
Well, um, first of all, I was not when my children were small, my
Mhm.
boys. I'm not a believer in gentle parenting.
Okay.
So as long as there was no profanity used, I was pretty open.
Mhm.
Uh, um, but I guess taking individual space for them. I
Okay.
remember one instance of my teenage son. One of my teenage sons was going through something, and I took them to a restaurant. It was called The Hat in Pasadena, and we just one-on-one talk. Just talk to me.
Mhm.
Letting them know that I didn't expect perfection because I'm not perfect, but just talk to me and be open with me, away from uh, everything and everyone else. And it tended to make them, well, they like food anyway, so it helped them relax
Mhm.
and sometimes open up and and express what was on their mind. Did they always open all the way up? I don't know,
Okay. Okay.
but I think that I think they felt comfortable.
Okay. Okay. So you created an atmosphere or an environment to open. But if I hear correctly, and correct me if I didn't get it, but
Mhm.
you didn't treat everyone with the same treatment. That it
No,
was catered to their needs. Awesome. Okay, got it. Got it.
right.
So,
You have different children, and it's really funny. They need different things.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
Mhm.
mhm. Absolutely. And so I think the same thing would apply when again, for those that are listening, when it comes to the men in the lives of women, the way you treat uh, the space you create for one man, husband or uncle or whatever, doesn't always the same type of treatment doesn't apply for sons or even another son. So
Right.
each one is different. So
Mm.
as the one receiving or listening or creating a space, it's got to be uniquely designed for that individual. Nothing, no, what is it? No one shoe fits all. So no one shoe or one space fits all men. Communication. You mentioned earlier about um, being understood or the fear of being misunderstood. And then you talked about how you created the certain spaces for your sons to be open. Communication is a two-way street. And I'm sure you would agree with that as an educator, you would understand that. But my question then is, what does it look like to truly listen and understand, especially when sensitive topics are being discussed with men? What does it look like? What does it look like to truly listen to understand? And you would agree, moms, that not everybody has mastered that listening thing. That sometimes people are waiting; they're not listening; they're just waiting on their turn to talk. What does it look like when you're really listening to understand, especially when you're talking about those sensitive things with men?
Well, I had to learn how to not talk.
Okay.
Women, or me as a woman, I can't speak for all women. We're verbally gifted.
Very good. Okay.
So opportunity, somebody trying to explain themselves. So I had to learn for myself to just hush sometimes. Just
Okay.
hush and quietly listen. I look for body language.
Okay.
You look at people's eyes. I mean, just that simple thing of learning to be quiet, and that's not meaning that, you're a doormat or this, that, and the other, but sometimes the quiet will reveal a lot, because the men in my life were not big on just talking for talking's sake. You know,
Okay.
they had something specific to say, and you really have to listen to receive it, and not
Right.
and let them know that you're not judgmental. Now, if it came up that there was something that you were concerned about, there's a way not to let them know that you were concerned about it, not being judgmental, but put it out there gently for them to think about, and they could respond or not.
Mhm, mhm. And so you brought up something that kind of resonates with me, that you said that the men, your sons, your husband, when they were talking, it was serious. Like it was not just for talking's sake. And I think that's a situation with many of us men. When we do talk, it's not just blowing hot air. It's not just, oh, I don't have anything else to do. When we talk, it is serious. And for us, it doesn't take us but a hot second to realize whether or not you're listening, right? It doesn't take very long. Like, and when we get that vibe that you're not listening, but you're just waiting to chime in, we can check out real fast. We can check out the conversation really, really, really fast. And so I definitely appreciate you raising that issue, that if we're going to listen to understand, it's all, we've got to really listen. So for those that are following along, I hope we're getting this, that listening is not just waiting. Listening is focusing in on what he's saying, because what he's saying, when he says it, if he's speaking it to you, it matters. It
Right.
matters. All right, good deal, good deal. And so let's see. My next question: How have you, moms? How have you worked to overcome misunderstandings or even breakdowns in communications in important relationships? How have you personally worked to overcome those breakdowns in those really? Now, I believe relationships do matter. Relationships across the board matter. But there are some relationships that are far more important than others. That relationship between husband and wife, that relationship between mother and son. How have you worked, or what have you done to work on those breakdowns in those serious conversations?
For me, prayer is the key for me, and that's an area that I constantly have to work on. If I have an art with somebody, you know, like I said, I have to work it. I have to go through my mind, through my heart, through prayer, and just work on it. Try to remain open and give it time. You
Mm,
know,
awesome.
um, sometimes time is a healer, and then just remaining open so that when it's time to close the gap, when God says the gap will be closed, the communication will be open, you'll be ready to receive that. But it's not easy for me. Sometimes if there are big communication thing breakdowns, it it can be hard, you know.
Mm, mhm, mhm,
Yeah.
mhm, mhm. It's funny, and I want to make note that ELT, who's listening in, made the comment, you're hearing, but you're not listening. Okay, thank you so much for that comment.
Hmm.
Um, um, so you mentioned about this whole idea of prayer being a way of working on those breakdowns in communications, and I believe that that happens across the board with between men and women, women and women, men and men. And I appreciate you raising the fact that sometimes you just have to stop and pray and ask God, not necessarily for the other person first, but help me to listen more, to
Yes.
understand where they're coming from, to hear their heart, to hear their points. And many times, moms, the answer that we get is not the answer we like. you know,
Right.
sometimes sometimes the answer that the spirit gives us is, okay, no, you just be quiet. That's it. Don't just no, you don't have a say in this. And that's one of those ouch moments, and a lot of times, again, I've talked to several women who have felt frustrated when there's a disconnect and God isn't answering, quote unquote, the way they expected God to answer. And sometimes God, the answer is, or from the Spirit is, no, just be quiet. Just
Be still.
be still, right. You know, there's a myriad of scriptures that could roll off, but it is, I think it's important for us to understand that men are, we are a different kind of beast. We are something else. And when our hairs get crossed and our world is spinning around, I believe that God equips women to hear us in a way that no one else can. And I believe that if a woman is in tuned in their prayer life and receptive to the answers to their prayers, I believe that that's one way to work on that breakdown of communication, especially when it's in serious relationships. And again, communication, as you mentioned, it's not always easy, and it's not always simple, but what do you do when you get to that point? So I thank you for sharing that one of the most potent weapons for women is prayer. It is prayer. And speaking of prayer, you contributed a powerful prayer in my book, and in your prayer for your son, you said in the prayer, and I want to quote it correctly, you might behave yourself around your son in such a way to foster confidence and reassurance in him of your love and belief in him. You prayed that wow, that was huge when I read that. You prayed that you would behave yourself in a certain way around him so that your behavior around him would foster confidence and reassurance in him. When you pray that, why was it important for you to include that in your prayer that you submitted? Why was it important for you to pray that you behave a certain way around him?
I think that that was important to me because as a mom, sometimes I can get, if you're not careful, you can get caught up in the momness of it. If that's
Okay.
no such word as that. But I'm mom, so therefore I know. And
Mhm.
so you have to, yes, I do know things, but I don't know everything. And I can't know how
Mhm.
he's feeling. I couldn't know how they were feeling all the time. So I guess
Mhm.
trying to make sure I was approachable. I'm
Mhm.
approachable, let you know I love you. I'm I'm your number one, I'm in your front row. I'm, your number one cheerleader, all this stuff, but I'm still mom, you know?
Right.
And, so it's a balancing act,
Mhm.
it's fun, it's hard, but it's so worth it. But you have to behave. And I was praying to ask the Lord, let him see me not just as the finger waving, I'm mom, you will do it my way because I say so, but a person that, loves me so much and is so concerned about me. They know that intrinsically, but
Mhm.
sometimes you have to see it,
Mm.
you know, and
Mm.
especially as they became teenagers, and teenagers and everything, which was a challenge. But so and so that's what it was for me. I wanted to behave not just I didn't want to just be a mom, do as I say, not as I do, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm. Mhm.
Though
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
did have some plans for them. I mean, it wasn't totally unstructured,
Sure,
but
sure. You had some plans for their lives as well.
of course.
Right. Right, right. Well, so I get it. I get it. And I believe that all mothers and mother figures, I choose to believe that all mothers and mother figures want to posture themselves in a way as when their sons are young as the authority figure, but then as they become men, that I believe that mothers and mother figures want to posture themselves or position themselves to be a source, a resource, the cheering squad, the voice of reason, the one who has their back at all times. And so when you wrote that, I could clearly hear the voices of many mothers saying the same thing. And I thought it was profound that in your prayer you would ask God to do something to you to better help and be a support to your son. I thought it
Mhm.
was huge that in a time when people want God to fix other people, that you would turn inward and say, first, God, do this to me so that I can. And so I trust that those who read that will understand that it's not always about the men in their lives that need to do some inward, but sometimes it's those who love us. Their approach has to be adjusted so that, as you would say, as you said, that you would behave yourself a certain way when you're around them. Now, in your secret prayer closet, you might be God now,
Yes.
and sometimes in their presence that might not be productive. But I appreciate you saying, while I am around him, while I'm in his space, yeah, to help me behave in a way that he finds it encouraging. And so many of the women that have read the book so far, I get this one question that keeps coming up. So Reverend, so Miss Jefferson said that she prayed for her son to be open and honest, and she prayed that he would be able to be more intimate with people in his communication. I want to know, did the prayer work? So moms, I'd like to ask you, when you're praying for your son and sons, me included, sons, about open and honest communication, um, do those prayers work? Have they worked? And what did it look like? If they did, what did it look like?
Well, I believe, and because I'm spiritually grounded, I know that there will be times when I won't see
Mm-hmm.
exactly, something in black and white. So I can
Mm-hmm.
say this occurred on this day, which is evidence that that happened. But I do know that for me, I did start getting little small touches of evidence. Like for instance, when my one of my sons was in college and actually called and asked my opinion, I almost fell out. I mean, what? You you want mom's opinion? And without me having to just give it. And so then as they got older, as they became men, mom, what do you think? And I want to get a mom, and it blew my mind. So there are little things. There was not a profound, okay, uh, a river experience where the ocean opened up and let people walk through, but it was, but little things, and so you do see it, but patience and just believing that God will
Mm-hmm.
is the
Mm-hmm.
only thing that only thing that we can do as Christian women is just believe, continue, don't give up, don't stop. Whatever you do, keep praying for them, and you will start to see. And it may not be when they're little, it may not be when they're teenagers, but if you're open, I
Mm-hmm.
believe God will let you see little evidences here and there.
Yes, yes, yes. Wow, wow, wow. So there is that. What is that? There's the cliche ish that says it may not look like they're listening right now, but know that they are. And
Yes.
so I want to say to the women that are listening, mothers and wives and the like, that, and I'm glad you said it, that as a woman who is spiritually grounded, that understand that prayer does work. It does work, and it may not reveal itself or manifest the answers to your prayers may not manifest in themselves all at one time. But based on what you're saying is that if you're consistent in prayer and if you are a believer in what you're praying, then what you are praying, if it's in the will of God, it will start showing up, and it'll show up and surprise you that it's showing up. And so ladies, know that prayer works. We may not look like it all of the time. We may not act the way you want us to and respond the way you want us to right away, but prayer still does work.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so moms, I have one last question before we go, and I want to know, because again, you have been a huge part of my development as a pastor, just as a person in general, and not everyone gets a bonus mom or bonus moms, and gosh, we have not lived in the same place or been in the same part of the same ministry for some years, and we're many, many miles apart. But I do value what you say and what you have to contribute to my life and into the world. And so, with that, my question is, what's one piece of advice that you'd offer someone else who is supporting a man in their life who's challenged with communicating openly and honestly? What's one piece of advice that you would give them?
Well, of course, I'm going to say pray. And I'm
Okay.
going to say believe God will, because he will.
Hmm.
And whatever you do, don't give up, because the men in our lives need us so much. They need us so badly. And just don't give up.
Awesome. 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 So listen, moms, again, thank you so much for jumping in with me today. I long looked forward to this time. I wanted other people to hear from you what I've heard so many times, as a praying woman, as a Christian woman, and one who just doesn't take life, who's not all tied up and tight with life. I wanted them to hear you directly, and so I do thank you so very much for being here in this space, this short space with me. Anything else you want to share with us before I let you go?
No, just thank you so much. I think what you're doing and what you continue to do is so valuable. And I just thank you for having me. It means a lot.
Awesome. 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 Well, thank you. So again, thank you again, and love you much.
Love you.
Take, bye bye.
Bye-bye.
And so, family, you've had an opportunity to share with me and one of my church moms. And so, if you haven't had a chance to go out and pick up to get a copy of the book, go out to drseymour.com and get a copy of the book. Prayers for the Men We Love. It's a guide that's written for women on critical topics that men experience in life. And I believe that if you read it, it's an easy read. It does require you to do some thinking and some reflection. But I believe if you apply these principles that these great women in my life and great women around the church have contributed to this, if you contribute, you'll see a change, and you'll see how valuable you are to the men that you love. And again, as moms, Mrs. Streeter Jefferson says that it may not happen immediately, but if you're consistent in your prayer and you're praying for those things that God would have of the men in your lives, that you'll see the evidence of that manifest itself. And so again, until next time, we look forward to hearing from you. And if it'll change our lives, if it'll make us all better for the kingdom, then let's talk about it. I'm Dr. C. See you next time. Bye-bye.